Hello everyone and welcome back to Ken's Counterpoint and Author's blog. Today it's about the bubble economy, the biggest bubble economy in history. Between year 2000 and 2008, the financial world was allowed to play Monopoly without rules, and then you tend to win. If you play against others. Yep, they were allowed to play Monopoly without rules, and everyone throw themselves into this, and everyone's going to get rich, and everything was fantastic, and subprime loans and everything, and it went to the absurdity that Iceland, this little country with 300,000, up there, Iceland was going to become the world's banking capital. You remember that? It's true, yeah? Iceland, the world bank capital. No, didn't work. The kingpin in this bubble was Lehman Brothers, which, went bust. And that's a pretty big thing to go bust. And after defrauding its customers, its shareholders, and people of savings, robbing people of savings, pensions, and housing, the state, they went bust, and the state stepped in and saved the customers. No, they didn't. They saved the banks. Yep. So the crooks got all the money from you. And then they got paid by the government to continue. And the crooks themselves, they last all the way to the tax havens, of course. So that was the financial crisis in 2006. It was ingenious. I mean, it was so big that it couldn't fail. I mean, if you steal, that's bad. But if you steal so much that really you can wipe out an entire financial system, which would be good, then the government has a problem. So they paid the banks to say, all right, let's here's some money and let's solve this. Now, what is an economic bubble? That is like overpricing of values in shares. Everyone expects shares and a product or something to be very, very valuable. More and more valuable, to rise and rise in value, until obviously it's not worth that. And when someone realizes that, they sell everything and say, all right, I don't believe in this anymore. And everyone throws themselves into it and sell their shares and everything, and the whole bubble collapses, it bursts, right? A bubble economies are quite familiar in economy. They are based on a mixture of greed. Greed is good. You remember that one? Greed works. It works for those who get rich. Yeah. Groupthink, corrupt cooperation, often with politicians or the government institutes that's going to control that everything is going according to law, and a belief in an eternal growth, right? And of course, you need a source of money. A source of money that's very, very important. But last not least, you can't make a financial bubble out of that, because you actually need lack of skepticism, lack of legislation, lack of brakes, and no control from the authorities. The authorities are actually the one who says, let's make a bubble, because you can be absolutely damn sure that every capitalist in the world, they want their shares to go up and the values to go up. There's nothing wrong in that, all right? But it's the government's job to say, wait a minute, you can't do business this way, right? Subprime loans, I think not, but they didn't. So the money people control the whole society. And there's been a lot of economic bubbles through the years. Now, the tulip crash in 1637 was the first. Everyone was buying tulip onions, because everyone said that this is going to be a fantastic, beautiful tulip, which is very important in the Netherlands. And then the prices of tulip onions just went up and up and up because everyone expected the flowers to be very, very nice. So they reached absolutely absurd prices when someone just said, well, actually, it's just the flower, isn't it? And they were said, yeah. Let's sell all the tulips onions before it crashes. And of course, then it crashes. Yeah, right. So everyone got bust. All right. And the South Sea bubble in 1720, there was a stock market crash in 1929. You know, that's quite familiar. That was when everyone jumped from the windows, you know. And, yeah, it was a horrible time, which led to the Great Depression. Yeah, 1930s. The Great Depression, that was due to a financial bubble. And then the politicians has learned that after the Great Depression in the 30s, the politicians learned that, you know, you can't play Monopoly without rules. That's not a good idea. Because if everyone follow the rules and one doesn't, you know, they tend to win Monopoly and they take Monopoly and they take all the money and then everyone goes bust. We can't have it like that. You know, that's a bad way to run a society or a country. So from 1929 and up to 1987, there was almost no bubble, you know, because the politicians were actually rather good. You know, they cared for the country and economy and everything. But, of course, then came 1987, you know. And that was fun, you know, the time of bad hairdos and bad music also. And it lasted from around 1980, and the stock market went up and everyone had a good time and everyone was getting rich. And it collapsed in October 1987, and which everyone was very depressed. Now, the funny thing about that was there was a small depression after 1987. You know, there was. But the politicians didn't really learn anything because they'd made this possible. Politicians always make a financial bubble possible. Because if you control the country, you can make the laws and legislation and be sure that this doesn't happen because everyone follows the rules, right? And it didn't take long for the next bubble to come along. It was the dot-com crash in year 2000. Everyone remember that? Yeah, the dot-com. Everyone was working hard at their offices with the new companies popping up everywhere, and everyone's getting rich in stock. They didn't. And I knew some people, and then, you work a lot, you know? Yeah, I got part of the company. You have part of the company? Wow, that's interesting. Yeah, I'm getting very rich. I got 5,000 shares. I see. And what did it pay you? Nothing. Nothing? No, I get shares, you know, from a toilet roll. A toilet roll has more shares. Oh, you worked hard. And of course, the whole thing crashed in year 2000. And some of the companies survived, of course, but most didn't, right? So that was also a bubble. And here comes, of course, just 8 years later, right? There was no bubbles from 1929 to 1987, but from 2000, the next bubble came in year 2008, the financial crisis. Yeah, the stock market crash and financial crisis in 2008, and that everyone remembers today. Because people lost their savings, their pensions, their homes, and still they had a lot of debt and everything, and it was horrible. Here in Norway, it didn't hit too hard, but in the United States it was just horrible. And this actually created, the distrust to American governments in 2008. You know, there's ripples from 2008. These ripples made Trump and made, the unrest in American society, because how can you trust governments that make these financial bubbles? Now, the problem is that the only one who learned anything from 2008 and the financial crisis, that was the people behind the financial crisis that got rich on it. Yeah, the corporate guys, the guys in suits, they learned a lot. The politicians, they learned nothing, right? And now, ladies and gentlemen, I present the biggest and the most dangerous bubble in human history, the climate bubble, right? And the climate bubble isn't dangerous because it is about to burst. It's dangerous because it's not about to burst. It's going to be a lot bigger before something happens. And now maybe some of you will say, what are you talking about? Climate crisis is an economic bubble. What are you talking about? I mean, how? What? It's a climate crisis. We need to solve it. This is not a financial bubble. Yes, it is. You've been fooled. It has nothing to do with emissions of CO2 or green or nature or anything. It's about money. It's always about money. All right? And I'm going to prove it to you. But the whole thing is so, it's like 2008. That was mean, and it was cynical, right? But the climate bubble is so cunning and so cynical and so brilliant that people doesn't really understand that this is a financial bubble and not a big task to save the world from the climate crisis. It has nothing to do with climate crisis at all. It has to do with money. Yeah, and I'll explain how. Just hang with me. Because what the guys in suits and ties and, the rich people, what they learned from 2008, is a very, very useful lesson for them. No one was prosecuted. No one was jailed. And no money was seized by the government, right? Nothing was done to stop new economic bubbles. There wasn't, the politician didn't go in and say, now the financial world has done enough of their shit. We're going to stop this. We're going to stop this from ever happening again and make legislation to be sure that economic bubbles do not rise again. Did they do that? Nope, they didn't. They pumped money into the banks and saved the banks, and all the bank people said, right, that was a lucky escape. Let's make some more money, right? Well, there are differences between the financial bubble in 2008 and the largest, because there are differences from 2008 to now, because the financial bubble of 2008 was the largest transfer of private money, private money, your savings and, everything you own, like pensions and everything. And it's the largest transfer of private money to private capital forces, right? Private capitalists, right? Now, the climate bubble is different because it's the history largest transfer of public money, the government money, to private capital forces. Right? That's the difference. So the money source is new. In 2008, people's housing dreams, debts and savings and pensions, they were preyed upon by these money sharks. And the climate bubble is a parasite on society's tax money. And that source, it's special because it's inexhaustible. You never run out of money because the government always can make more money. They just print it. And it's actually made by the sentence, give me money and I will fix the climate, right? I'll make better weather in Ontario in 2100. There will be better weather if I get money and I'll fix the climate and I fix CO2 cuts and emissions and everything. Now, there are three factors that is driving this force. It is It's a climate urgency, of course, public money, and private corporations. These three things here. Now, the private corporations, they are asked in demand to make climate solutions, right? That sounds nice. In a hurry. And you have to do it in a hurry. That's like wind turbines, the solar power, the batteries, hydrogen, carbon capture and storage, energy saving, and this hydrogen plants and batteries and anything that can cut a ton of CO2, even micrograms of CO2. If you keep your breath for like 15 minutes, you cut a lot of CO2, but you won't get any money for it. So anything and anyone who can cut CO2, any company who say they can, I have an invention, I can cut CO2, but I need money, they'll get it. The corporations, they say yes to this. Of course, when the government says you have to help us cut CO2 emissions, the corporations says yes, if I get public funding and subsidies and tax credits and benefits and exemption from the law, at least. And it's never enough, The states are now competing, The states are now competing on who can give away enough money for securing better weather in New York in year 2100. Yeah. And here in Norway, we have a very, very climate active government, but they actually got out competed by Joe Biden and his what is it called? The Inflation Reduction Act, which is really going to make inflation fly. So, and the last of this is private corporation. The rest is climate urgency. Because without climate urgency, without the urgency that is this omnipresent urgency, you couldn't actually do this, right? You couldn't do it. Because the climate urgency has removed all care, political impact assessment, risk assessment, all accountable financial budgeting. All the paperwork is gone, right? Everything is gone. All the paperwork is gone. Everything that kept the brakes on, and everything that made control over the money flow is gone. Yeah. And it's not the corporations who asked the government to do this, it's the government who did this. Because if they didn't, then the world would go under. The climate crisis will come, everyone would die, and millions would die, and so you can't make impact assessment and risk assessments and all this red tape. There's no time for it, There's no time. So you have to do it. So how does the economic bubble work? Well, listen and get rich, all right? Because the government, when these three, climate urgency, public money, and private corporations, they actually they make a climate bubble that is an opportunity for everyone who wants to get rich. So here's the recipe. You set up a share company with shares, right? And it's this business is of course completely without content or values. The shares are worth nothing, but you promise everyone that your solution, whatever it is, perpetuum mobile or whatever it is, will cut 1 million tons of CO2 in an incredibly short time. But to develop it, you need money, right? So your shares is worth nothing, and you ask the government for some money, and they give you climate guarantees and loans from the state, right? We believe in you. We believe in your invention. Here's some money, and you get this, and thus your shares get value. Ta-da! From nothing, from government money, right? Okay. And when your stocks actually rise in price, now the investors says, oh, that's a company, never heard about that one, but sure, it got $2 million from the government on an invention. That's probably a good thing. Let's let's pitch on that. Let's go with that. So your shares rise even more. They're even more worth, right? Okay. Haven't made anything, but that doesn't matter. Now, for that money that comes in, you hire an army of lobbyists and PR employees who pump out websites and research and advertising and promises about the upcoming success. In 2 years we're gonna earn billions, and this is gonna be the new oil, right? That's good. And when you do that, of course, everyone says, "Oh my God, this is a very good company," and everyone is pitching in now, and everyone is pouring money into it, and you are on the money train. Yeah, right. Yeah. So you can even top this. That's you can go to the head if you have a pal or something abroad in Japan or just like Korea or something. You can go to them and you can ask the boss there, which you can take them out in the restaurant and say, I need a purchase agreement, right? And I'll give you $1 million under the table that no one has to talk about for giving me a purchase agreement. Or just, let's agree that, yeah, we're going to buy your products when they are finished, an intention of purchase, right? So you get the paper, they sign, they go, yeah, we're going to buy 2 million of your units, whatever you make, and we order that, and this is good purchase. And then you could put that in front of your shareholders and say, look, international contacts and contracts for our fantastic product. And now the shares really rise. And what it's time for now is a bigger salary, because you're a very, very good company man, and bonuses, of course, right? And now you actually have money to build something that looks like a factory or something, that looks like a project will succeed, just put up something, build a factory hall or something, something that looks credible, right? Or if you're going to make an electric plane, build something that looks like a plane. Oh, this will fly in 2 years. No. It's just a scam, it doesn't matter. Because you know that you have nothing. This is a scam, you know that. So, you can actually proceed with this for years. You can go on for years, right? And many do. If you have a battery factory, right? I will make the best batteries here in the desert somewhere in the United States or in England. There's going to be battery factory in millions and billions, and right. So you can go on forever and ever. There's only one small problem about this scam, right? Sooner or later, someone's going to notice that you make a lot of buzz, but you don't actually make any results. Things that make you go, And also the politicians and investors will sooner or later notice that where's your product? When, this 2 years, 3 years now, you're building factory halls and there's a lot of websites and a lot of promises, a lot of PowerPoints and whoa, fantastic. Where's the beef? Where's the product? Where is it? Oh, it's coming. It's coming along. It's going to get rich. It's going to be fantastic. So the time has come. Time has come to bail out. So without a crooked Tuesday, you wake up and you sell your shares without telling anyone, you just dump them, And of course, the stock market will notice that. And then all your investors, they will say, oh my God, he sold the shares of an old factory. What's wrong? We have some setbacks. You have PR agents and, lobbyists and everything who can talk about it. So the investors, they sell in panic. The share price, the stock prices, they crash, And the companies, you have to, unfortunately, we had a very good run, but the premises was wrong or something went wrong, or we underestimated the competition or something, bullshit, just talk away. And everyone has become rich. The people that work for you, they had salaries, now they're without a job, but they earned some, and the bonuses, they will find, and trillions. And no one goes to prison because you haven't done anything wrong, have you? That's the danger of government intervening in capitalism and business. Because when the government start to subsidize companies without value, they get value. Whenever even if they don't produce anything, that is making a financial bubble. You see? That is the problem. When the government says we have to save the climate, but to save the climate, companies has to build inventions that can make net zero. But to make that, they say that we need to give them money to make that because they're going to do it fast. That is making a financial bubble, and that is the climate bubble, my friends. So this time, families and families and friends and ordinary people don't, like in 2008, they were left homeless. They're on the street without their savings and the pensions in 2008. And that won't happen this time because the money isn't taken from them directly. It's taken from their tax money. But, the government still have to, pay wages and, make things go around, even if billions are lost. So this heroic quest for saving the planet, no one does actually anything illegal, right? And, and even though the government has to cut on welfare and everything, it won't hit people the same way as in 2008, the financial crisis and this subprime loan madness. But of course, that's the problem, because it won't crash, because the government will never run out of money to put into worthless companies that promises to make wind power from the sea and floating wind power and hydrogen plants and everything that's going to make the future. The government will never run out of money. It can go on forever. And that's why the companies who used to, the capitalists investors who used to be very interested in money, and the only thing was inside their head, it was profit. Now these guys, they now say, we are only committed to saving the planet. No, they're not. They're not. They're still... the only thing inside their head is still profit. They lie. They put out this web pages, full of green stuff and grass and daffodils and laughing children and greed and everything, future, and you can it's billions of them. You can, whatever company you see, we are committed to the green future. No, they're not. They're committed to the climate bubble. They're after the money. They lie. They lie. They know that they can't produce wind farms that will go in plus and will make a profit. Not without the energy costing so much that no one can afford it. They know this. They got calculators. This is the smartest guy in the room. They were called that in 2008. You know that? 2008, they were called the smartest men in the room, and they were. And they learned that they can do whatever they like with money and never get busted, and no one's going to take the money from them. And they want this climate bubble to grow. The politicians want the climate bubble to grow. Everyone wants it to grow. And it can't run out of money. So it gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. And even those who, on the side of this, like, own a coal plant, they want it to grow. Why? Well, because it makes an energy shortage. The green shift makes energy shortage, which makes actually prices of energy higher. So the coal plant people said, okay, I'm in. I don't want this to stop. We're very, very concerned about the climate. No, they're not. So, so how do you achieve this without the police? The FBI, the the financial crime unit, the National Audit Office, or the media, or the Ministry of Finance is pulling on the emergency brakes and saying this is just growing and growing. But how much CO2 have we cut? None. And even if they say they cut, the numbers are fictitious. Why is it any, after the 2008 financial bubble, the financial crisis, all the financial experts said, oh, this was a surprise. They didn't see it coming. But they did. They just didn't want it to stop because it looked so good and it was a lot of money. And that's the reason why no one actually wants to stop it. The government don't want to stop it. Those who earn on it don't want to stop it. And of course, they don't want to stop it because we have no choice. Duh. We can't stop it. I mean, if not making this climate bubble, if not pumping out this money to the corporations, if we don't do it, the world's going to end in climate catastrophe. So they're not doing anything wrong. It's not illegal. So the goal is not to destroy the economy, but inflating the bubble. So the bubble is good. This is good. Everyone thinks it's good. The politicians prioritize the green shift and deprioritize welfare and social responsibility. And this can continue forever, because the climate crisis is never going to peak, or it's not going to be like, oh, the climate crisis has got so bad now, there's no point in doing this anymore. We can't save the planet anymore, so let's just stop using money. No, never. They have no choice. They have to go on. Circular economy and build back better, and it cannot go wrong. The climate crisis is a positive opportunity, and we must invest now, they say, So this is the driver, the collective psychological mass hysteria, right? And in the mass hysteria, no one is allowed to say, excuse me, there are no witches. It's fiction. It's fiction, You can say that climate scientists say that climate crisis is real. Yeah, you can say that, but where's the science that proves that climate solutions actually work? Where's the science and the math that says that using this government money, blowing up this financial bubble, where's the science that shows that this is going to work? Because it's going on for 30 years now and it hasn't worked yet. So where's the beef? Nowhere. So giving away unimaginable amounts of money, of your money, to private companies in tax heaven, it's a symbiosis. Like, the politicians and the companies and the private capital and the well-paid scientists, they're in symbiosis for one thing, and that is to protect the world from going under in climate crisis. And everyone wants it. Everyone agrees. Everyone is in on it. It's a collective mass hysteria, just like when they were hunting witches, which didn't exist. All this is based on clairvoyant climate scientists and research that actually say that we can predict the climate future. They can't. They can guess, but they can't. It can get warmer, but all of a sudden nature might decide that, I think, nature can't talk to it, can't discuss with it, but sometimes the small ice ages come without anyone can explain why. It can happen again. Volcano eruption, cold weather can happen. No one can actually predict the climate in 2050, and at least not in year 2100. It's impossible. It's not science. It's Scientology. Science fiction. That's what it is. But of course, the climate scientists also earn money on this. So But there are warnings. There are warnings, signs that should make you go, Things that make you go, that was a song. Things that make you go, global warming and more plant nutrition, right, in the air. Warmer weather and more plant nutrition that makes, the crops bigger and grow faster, has not a single positive effect. None. The future is exclusively negative and pitch black because of global warming. There's not a single, you can't find anywhere a single positive thing about global warming. None. Nothing. Ever. Nowhere. And that should make you think, that's weird. Because things are never that black and white. Never. If something is that black and white, somebody lies. Right? And here's another warning. The green shift, with net zero, build back better energy transition, sustainability goals and stakeholder capitalism, inflation reduction, it's carried out without any impact analysis, any risk assessment, and not any financial projections, nothing. There isn't any brakes on it. There is no one saying, whoa, wait a minute. We can't do this. This is irresponsible. This is irresponsible. We can't do this. This is dangerous. There's no brakes. No one is slowing down this train. No one is saying, wait a minute, are we absolutely sure we're going in the right direction, doing the right thing here? None. None. The government has removed all the paperwork. 3, and this is the big question, of course, that every newspaper and every newspaper in the world should ask. Now, is the energy transition and net zero policy technically, physically, and economically possible? Says who? Based on what? Based on what? Because, this energy transition, there is no evidence from small-scale trials, Every time you're going to do something big, you try it with a model, So you can put a small country like Denmark, Okay, let's take away every fossil fuel, everything. And let's try this in Denmark for 5 years, the energy transition. Only wind and solar, hydrogen, everything, pour it in. Let's use a lot of money. And let's see how Denmark fares with this. Or an island or whatever, state, don't matter. A small scale experiment, It's never been done. Never, ever. Because a small-scale experiment with Denmark, living in the net zero world, that would actually give very, very important answers. Is it possible? Yes. Well, Denmark does it. What does it cost? What will the energy cost? What happens when the wind doesn't blow for 3 weeks? How does such a society cope? And what is the result? That is what you will learn from a small scale experiment. And every politician that will try to change things, they should actually try to say, all right, where has this worked? Nowhere. Instead, the people behind this climate bubble is trying to implement this solution in the whole country, in the whole world at once, without any small-scale trials, because we don't have time for that. Science has spoken, time for discussion is over. I want you to panic. Now, how about that? That makes you go, So no one knows what this green shift will cost. No one can tell you if it works, because it's never been tried. They just say it's gonna work. It is going to work. They're going to create a new energy supplies, the wind farms, the hydrogen, green transition, and green jobs, and all the rest. It's just guaranteed side effect. It's not actually what they try to do. They try to cut CO2. The goal is to save world humanity. That's the goal behind the climate bubble. That's the goal. Not making a new energy and save the world. So don't look at the money. Now, how convenient is that? So the bubble gets bigger and bigger than you can imagine. This carbon credit, in 2007, the carbon credit trading was totally scandalized, because it was a total fraud. I'll make a film about, carbon credits, because the trading there is very interesting. And this is one of the world's most valuable trading objects, despite that the product actually is worthless and fictitious. It doesn't exist. Nothing, they trade with something that isn't really anything, just promises. So it's very interesting, but it's so big. And Reuters says actually that Reuters has said in 2022, I think it was, that global investment of $2.7 trillion every year, $2.7 trillion every year is needed to achieve net zero emissions by 2050 to avoid temperatures from rising above 1.5 degrees Celsius this century. So if you use enough money, the weather is going to get better. Based on what? Yes, I know there's a climate crisis. I know climate scientists says there is global warming, it's our fault. That has nothing to do with the solutions. The solutions is completely coupled from that. It has nothing to do with climate scientists. This is technical. This is economic. This is physics. How do you know this is going to work? Based on what? Where's the small scale evidence? Nowhere. So $2.7 trillion a year from the government. That's the bubble. Developed countries are also promised the poorer nations. Developed countries, that means the West. It's promised poorer nations $100 billion a year just to compensate, to deal with global warming and get off fossil fuels, which is not possible. And they won't do it. China laughs off the whole thing. They say, oh yes, we're gonna cut emissions. They're not. They're lying. They don't give a shit, because they want the West to go down. They want this bubble to burst. They want it to be as big as possible, the Chinese, and they don't want it to implode, because then their financial muscles will grow and their power will grow. That's the truth. So that's what makes it so extremely dangerous. So the politicians save the planet with public money, and the private profiteers make money by creating non-working and fictional solutions to order from the politicians, even EV cars. The car manufacturers of Europe didn't want to make EVs, battery cars. They didn't want to make them. They were ordered to. Like in the German communist country, when they drove the Trabant. The politicians said, this is what car you're going to make. This is what car people are going to drive. This is planned economy. It's crazy. And it's a perfect symbiosis of self-deception, fraud, greed, and corruption, like any bubble since 1600s. It's a bubble economy. It's economy, stupid. Yeah. So, as long as the climate goals are met, the bubble to solve the problem will only grow and grow and grow. And it does. It has been growing for 30 years and it's still growing. So, I'll just finish with saying one thing, and that's climate policy, this bubble, is the greatest danger to humanity has faced. Because this bubble is not like the 2008. This is a nuclear bomb towards our societies. It's a monster. Just wait and see. Now remember to share and press follow on YouTube. And I'll give you more counterpoints to shock you, because you're going to need it. Follow me, please. Thank you.